Palantir stock is the main subject of today's video. It's been a while since I've reacted to an article here on the channel, but today I'm going to go ahead and do that. I want to react to this article in regards to Palantir, give my opinions and perspectives. Palantir, its golden moment is here. Now, this article, I would say, it's supposed to be kind of, in the middle. This one kind of hold rating, right? So not super bullish, not super bearish. If I had to say, reading through this article, I would say it leans a little bearish. And so I want to give some perspectives on several different fronts they bring up around what's going on with the business and obviously the share buyback and, maybe not timing being the best. And I want to give some opinions and perspectives in regards to that here. So that's what we're doing here today, folks. I appreciate y'all joining me. Obviously, Palantir, its stock, had a pretty tough last week, right? It really did. I think the stock was down about 14% last week. And from the peak Palantir, where it was at a couple weeks ago, it's down about 20 to 25%. So obviously year to date, the stock still had a tremendous year, right? It's up 141%. But that recent drop, and I'd love to hear from you guys. Are you buying the dip? Are you buying Palantir? Obviously, we're way past the 3 trading days after, as they say, right? If a company reports earnings and the stock tanks, wait 3 trading days. We're past that now at this point in time. So I'd love to hear from you guys if you're going to be out there buying Palantir stock this week, if you think it's a great value for the long term, if you're holding off on buying Palantir until next quarter or next year, something like that. I'd love to hear your guys' perspective on kind of what you're up to in regards to good old PLTR in this video here today. Now, guess what? I actually bought some Palantir on Friday. So I did buy some shares in the Patreon portfolio. And if you haven't joined in there and you like to see the moves I'm making in the market, on Friday, I bought Palantir. I bought some other stocks. I also did some hedges in my Patreon portfolio. So if you want to keep track of the moves I'm up to in the market in my Patreon portfolio, and check out the pinned comment down there, that'll be for access. And it's $19. You get to see access to the moves I'm making. Plus, you obviously get to be part of that Discord chat over there as well. I also have another tier that includes a course in it as well. So if you want to learn deeper, there's certainly that opportunity for you as well. That will be pinned comment down there for access to that. Alrighty, guys. So let's go ahead and jump into this, okay? Now, first place I want to start is right here, okay? Palantir demonstrated impressive capital management by generating robust interest income through the elevated interest rate environment, okay? Now, first off, this is very important. I don't think anybody is talking about this, and they should be talking about this because this matters significantly, okay? Listen, Palantir, if they want to start earning a lot more in interest income, they have that capability. Keep in mind, they have significant portion of money of their current assets just kind of sitting around, not really generating them any sort of return right now. They could easily flip another $1 billion+ over to generate a bunch more interest income if they chose to do so. So do keep that in mind, that if they want to, they could earn more moving forward. Now, on top of that, if the Fed raises rates anymore, something like that, that could obviously even boost up their interest income even in a bigger way, okay? So keep in mind, they're not even maxed out in terms of what their capabilities are. If they wanted to earn, tens of millions of dollars more in interest income, they could easily do that, okay? Now, Palantir's AI investment thesis remains robust. We previously covered Palantir Technologies in May of 2023, discussing its exciting forward prospects due to the optimistic launch of its controversial AI tool. I don't know if it's that controversial, right? As far as Alex Karp, he recognized the functional use case of AI in the defense and intelligence sector, as discussed in the New York Times article, Our Oppenheimer Moment, which was written very recently. That definitely made a lot of waves in regards to that New York Times article, right? For now, Palantir has achieved another quarter of positive profit margins, sustaining the trend from previous quarter in nearer to the management's target of fiscal year 2023 to be a first full year of GAAP profitability. Things are looking pretty good there, right? If we are able to break down its performance from a the most recent quarter they just reported, okay, the second quarter of 2023, the company generates an impressive $10 million in operating income and $30 million in interest income. Now, obviously, they have a long way to go in terms of operating income. That should skyrocket over this next 36 months in a substantial way. And in terms of interest income, like I spoke about before, they're not even maxed out on what they could be earning for interest income. If they want to bump this up to 40, 50 million, they could easily actually pull that off. It's not hard for them at all. They just need to move more money over there. compared to the quarters basically the fiscal first quarter of 2023, right? Which they had 4 million and 20 million, right? So both these are on the upward trend and should continue to, obviously, in a substantial way as the remainder of this year, and then especially going into future years, right? And obviously, that's a massive improvement from where they were at this time last year. I mean, it's like a night and day difference with this business model, right? Much of the tailwind is probably attributed to the company finally reaching its sustainable operating scale thanks to expanding top line of $533 million, which was about 13% growth year over year, and stable operating expenses of $416 million. That is something that's not talked about nearly enough. This company is keeping its expenses in line in a very good way right now, and I love that as a shareholder of this company. This is further aided by the management's intensified short-term investments of $2 billion thanks to elevated interest rate environment through the Fed's sustained rate hike since March of 2022. Now, here's the thing, okay? Obviously, Palantir just announced their share buyback, and we'll talk about that a little more later on because this gentleman has a view of this, and I have a different view of this share buyback, okay? But keep in mind, if they have $2 billion roughly earning them interest, they still have another $1 billion that they could put over there, right? If not more than that, especially if the business starts to generate more and more money. Plus, obviously, the interest income keeps pouring in, obviously just pouring in more and more and more. So that is something to keep in mind here, folks, that once again, is not getting talked about enough, and it's just like it's an extra, kind of tool in the tool belt for Palantir here. This is highly strategic capital management in our review, since it demonstrated that Palantir's management excellent use of the balance sheet, which had about $3 billion on it in terms of, kind of like cash and short-term investments, right? Contributed to the company's overall GAAP profitability. For now, Palantir's prospect seems bright enough with expanding government revenues, $302 million, which is about 15% growth year over year, and commercial revenues, which were up about 10.4%. The commercial revenues were really hurt by international lack of growth. Like international was really in a bad place, right? Suggesting minimal demand headwinds despite peak recessionary fears. This is on top of the decent short-term remaining performance obligations of $558 million, with long-term backlog of $410 million spread over the next 36 months. Therefore, while Palantir's top and bottom line growth has decelerated compared to the hyper-Rona levels, right, we're not overly concerned, since it's mostly attributed to ongoing CapEx optimization from the uncertain macroeconomic landscape, right? It's hard, especially in 2023, it's a much harder time to get deals done. These deals are taking longer to put together. They're having to go way up the ranks because, companies have just been watching themselves. After what happened last year in the financial markets, right? And with the move that the Fed has made, right? Companies are just watching expenses very closely and who say, I'm going to go spend, $50 million a year or $20 million a year or $10 million a year on Palantir's product. It's a big decision, and companies have to kind of send that up the ranks. All it takes is one person up the ranks to say no, and, the deal kind of dies in the short term, right? We are highly convinced about Palantir's head start to the AI race as well, since management has managed to introduce multiple AI-powered tools and software, which has been designed in-house over the past 20 years, similar to CrowdStrike. Now, something very important, okay? Because obviously Palantir started to get recognized as an AI-related stock this year, okay? And I realize not everybody's kept track of Palantir over the years. Some people have just came across Palantir this year, okay? This is very important, very, very important. Palantir has been working on AI-related things for years, right? And I remember, ever since I found out about Palantir, of what they're working on kind of AI-wise, and that was years ago, okay? And so before it was a cool buzzword to say AI and we got an AI product, like I always looked at Palantir since I found out about this company, it's kind of like at the cross sections of data and artificial intelligence and deciphering your data, whether you're a government, a company, whatever, using that data to make better decisions for your business or for your government entity, right? Sometimes that could be, hey, how can we save a bunch of costs, optimize our business, make things much more efficient? Sometimes it could be, hey, this can help us generate more money with leads and all these sorts of things, right? Or it could be even a different side of things where, for on the battlefield, like having much better decision making in regards to warfare times or critical healthcare related things, right? All these complex issues. So when I look at kind of what Palantir's been up to for years, like they're not new to this game. It's just some people have recognized them as a player in this game, and that's kind of new, right? This is compared to other players' acquisition strategies, such as Google McDougal, DeepMind, Microsoft OpenAI, and Meta's, Meta has a whole different strategy. I mean, almost all these AI-related companies have different strategies for what they're trying to do AI-related wise. Everybody tries to group them all together or thinks they're competing. Not really, okay? Meta's got a whole different strategy for what they're doing for their business AI-wise versus what Palantir is doing, versus what Microsoft's doing, versus what Google McDougal's doing. Like, it's night and day versus what Apple's doing, okay? Palantir's superior end-to-end AI expertise, engineering capability, and the seamless, highly integrated user experience has also allowed the recently introduced AIP be directly integrated with the existing Foundry and Gotham platforms with minimal time and operating lag. And that reminds me of the meme I showed you guys recently that somebody created, the image. It was like a Trojan horse, and AIP for Palantir was the actual like Trojan horse, and inside the Trojan horse, right, is like Foundry, Gotham, and Apollo, products like that, right? And so it's just kind of like Palantir's way of getting in the door with a lot of companies that might not have talked to them before, and then ultimately selling them the solutions that make, obviously, Palantir substantial amounts of money, right? Therefore, the stickiness of its product offering are not surprising indeed, as seen with the increasing 421 customers, which is up 38% year over year by the latest quarter. And one of my bets on Palantir has always been that this company's product's going to be very sticky, and so if a company signs up for Palantir, they're going to likely re-up their contracts in future years as well, right? That's always been my belief when it comes to Palantir, and therefore, the margins are always going to be phenomenal, and this is going to be an absolute cash flow machine company, right? We are also highly encouraged that Palantir has raised its fiscal year 2023 guidance moderately, at least, to $2.21 billion, which is up about 16.4% year over year, and $576 million in adjusted operating income, which is about almost 38% growth year over year, compared with the previous ranges. So the revenue guide up was cool, but it wasn't like that insane. Now, on the adjusted operating income was much more impressive, in my opinion, in terms of what they're guiding for there now versus what they were expecting before. Okay, the $1 billion share repurchase program seems untimely. Then again, Palantir's announcement of the $1 billion share repurchase program seems untimely since the stock's valuation are now overly stretched. I don't know about that, with its price near 52-week highs. Okay, so first off, 52-week high is a little over 20. I think we're sitting at 15 right now, right? So I don't know about that, right? And people are getting way too caught up in the short term in regards to Palantir and the share buyback, okay? Let me put it very simple. If you are a believer that Palantir is going to grow into a $100 billion market cap, a several $100 billion market cap over the next 5-10 years, then to take shares off the market at a $30 billion market cap, or whatever it's at, it might be 30 something, right? It makes a lot of dang sense to buy those shares now rather than wait years and years and then have to announce a $10 billion share buyback to basically accomplish the same thing you can now, but for $1 billion, right? And so this is, in my opinion, if you are a true believer of Palantir and where this stock is going over the coming years, they should be buying shares back, as many shares under $20 a share as they can possibly get their hands on. Anything in the 12 to 20 range, buy. And if the stock goes any lower, then buy heavier. Okay, so that's the bottom line when it comes to that. Looking at it from a 52-week high perspective or that, it just doesn't make sense, man. It doesn't make sense at all. In addition, if the management's use of its existing balance sheet to buy back shares, its eventual GAAP profitability may be impacted due to the reduced interest income. Therefore, while Palantir management may think its current share prices are cheap and thereby warranting a buyback, we are not convinced for now. I think Palantir's management, Karp and the whole team, is probably thinking in regards to where's profitability likely going over the coming years, where net income going over the coming years, and are we getting a good price on buying the shares back now? That's my personal opinion, right? Because once again, it's $1 billion share buyback. They could use that money to go generate them a bunch of money right now in treasuries, right? So to do this must definitely show that they believe that if they buy shares back over this next 6-12 months, it's really cheap from what they would have to buy back in future years, right? Doesn't mean they're right. That just means that's their perspective, right? Furthermore, based on its current market capitalization, it was $38 billion, I guess, when this gentleman wrote the article. Right now, I think it's lower. It might be, I don't know. Right now, the market cap might be 32 to 34 billion, right? And 2.27 billion in shares outstanding. The eventual impact seems underwhelming, especially given the $456 million of annual share-based compensation in the latest quarter, right? Yeah, well, I could tell you, if they're diluting shareholder value, right, then it makes even more sense to buy back shares so we don't have such a kind of negative situation in regards to that, right? Only time will tell, since there's no mandated end date for the share repurchase program, right? Therefore, due to the nascency of the generative AI market, it's unsurprising that Palantir stock has been rewarded in inflated valuations. Once again, how is this inflated valuations? Like if you look at where Palantir's growth is long term, and you look at where this company's profitability should come from in 2024 and in future years, and when you take into account the fact that this company's at infant stage of profitability, remember, they just are getting profitable, right? They're just getting operating incomes in a good place, like just barely, like in the last few quarters here. So we're talking about, where's this company going to be 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out, 7 years out in terms of profitability? Well, as long as they execute on this business pretty well, I mean, I can tell you, they're going to make today's numbers look like a complete joke, right? And so, like, man, when you're at the infant stage of profitability, this is literally inning one of profitability for Palantir. Literally right now, we're in inning one. Inning one, okay? Long way to go in regards to that, right? The same exuberance has also been observed by AI SaaS peers such as Microsoft, NVIDIA, CrowdStrike, C3 AI, with elevated EV to revenue valuations compared to their one-year means. Oh, one-year means nothing, okay? Last year, no one wanted to own anything in relation to growth stocks, AI-related, Palantir, none of these stocks. No one wanted any piece of them. So to look at where things were at over the past year is just silly, in my personal opinion. Things got way oversold. Should Palantir ever been trading at $5 or $6? Not in my personal opinion. That was stupid. But it did it, and that's what happened, right? So, like, to look at where the stock was at a year ago, 9 months ago, you know, versus now, it's not a very intelligent game in my personal opinion. However, Palantir has more than doubled from the May 2023 bottom of $7.38, which was ridiculous. It was that low, retesting its Q4 2021 support levels. Due to the overly fast and furious rally, we are not surprised at the rapid profit taking over the past few days. That's probably, yeah, definitely some Wall Streeters there. Due to the potential volatility in elevated short interest. And by the way, okay, let me mention one last very important thing, okay? One very last important thing. Palantir should always trade rich. It should always trade at a multiple that's way above the market. One, they're going to be likely seen as a company that's going to way outgrow the average company. Two, people are really convinced of Palantir's long-term growth prospects, right? And three, they kind of get put into like the SaaS type business models, and guess what? Those are the best of breed business models. They always command the biggest valuations on them. So if you think Palantir's expensive today, just keep in mind you're always going to think it's expensive. There never should be a day, other than maybe the last year when it was like stupid and they were selling the stock at $6 a share and no one wanted a piece of Palantir, right? Outside of like a once in a 10-year experience, Palantir is going to trade rich, and it's going to continue to trade rich, in my personal opinion, for years to go in the future. I appreciate everybody joining me. As always, thanks so much for being here, folks. New all-time high subscribers. I appreciate y'all. If you're looking to join my Patreon down there, support the content, plus get access to the moves I'm making in the market, how I'm hedging in the market, all those sorts of things, check out the pinned comment down there for access to that. Much love, and have a great day.